Good evening, and welcome to the latest happenings inside our federal machine.
It's Monday, January 12th, 2026. This is Spathon with another episode of The Swamp. The U.S. Department of Justice issued grand jury subpoenas against Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell over his June 2025 Senate testimony regarding the $2.5 billion Federal Reserve renovation. And also, after Senator Mark Kelly was censured by the War Department over his viral video recommending active duty soldiers disobey orders from President Trump, leading the War Department to a reduction in his retirement benefits, Senator Kelly announced today that he is retaliating by suing Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. Also, massive protests in Iran have been occurring for about 2 weeks now, most of which is happening during a nationwide internet blackout. However, video clips are making their way out through the use of Starlink. And according to Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt, those in power in Venezuela have been, quote-unquote, very cooperative with the ongoing transition, and President Trump expects a smooth transition of power to continue. And the left is spreading fake news about a 17-year-old American citizen being kidnapped by ICE. But according to the Department of Homeland Security, this individual previously assaulted law enforcement officers and was apprehended at Target, where he apparently works. Attorney General Keith Ellison from Minnesota announced that the state of Minnesota is suing the federal government in an attempt to withdraw immigration and customs enforcement from the state entirely. Imagine the immense flooding of illegal immigrants into the state if they actually succeeded. And there's a lot more that happened today, so we're just going to dive straight in. And if you enjoyed the video tonight, please give the video a quick like if you get a second, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the daily updates. And I might read your comment on the next episode if you decide to drop one below. And every article you'll see in this video will be linked in the description below. And we're going to start actually... real quick, before I get started with Jerome Powell, I'm going to read this real quick. So I asked Grok if there's any recent updates on the DOJ's release of the full Epstein files, because nobody's talking about that, at least not in the federal government side of things, because obviously they missed their deadline, which was way back on December the 19th, and we're still waiting. We're still waiting for those tranches of documents, the hundreds of thousands of documents consisting of millions of pages that they still have yet to release, which we're getting... not far from a full month past the due date, the lawful due date. So anyway, according to Grok's response, any recent updates on the DOJ's release of the full Epstein files. So Grok states the most recent updates on the Department of Justice's release of the full Jeffrey Epstein files indicate that the process is ongoing but significantly delayed and incomplete. Yeah, no shit. In late 2025, Congress passed the Epstein Files Transparency Act, which President Trump signed into law on November 19, 2025. This required the DOJ to release all unclassified records related to Epstein, including investigative materials, communications, flight logs, and etc., by December the 19th of 2025, 12/19 of 25, in a searchable and downloadable format with protections for victims' identities. The DOJ began releasing tranches of documents starting around December 19th, 2025, via their dedicated Epstein library page at justice.gov/Epstein, which I've shown on the Swamp probably at least 3 or 4 times at this point. Initial releases included thousands of files such as photos, court records, emails, news clippings, videos, investigative documents, some mentioning high-profile figures like Donald Trump, often in news clippings or flight contexts, with no new major revelations of wrongdoing in those mentions. Subsequent batches followed in late December 2025, totaling hundreds of thousands of pages in some reports, but many were heavily redacted, some pages entirely blacked out to protect victims and due to ongoing reviews. However, the full release missed the December 19th deadline, drawing bipartisan criticism for non-compliance with the law. In late December 2025, the DOJ announced the discovery of over 1 million additional potentially related documents. Later estimates rose to over 2 million, and some reports mention up to 5.2 million that are currently under review, requiring extensive redaction work by hundreds of lawyers. As of early January of 2026, specifically referenced in a January 6th, 2026 court filing to a federal judge in the Southern District of New York. The DOJ had released only 12,285 documents, which is about 125,500 pages, less than 1% of the total materials. It's going to take a fucking years. It's going to take them years to do this shit. Now, I don't understand why the Department of Justice didn't consult with Congress before they passed the Epstein Transparency Act and it just allowed themselves to have a longer timetable in order to review everything. I understand that they did find extra documents in some department. I think it was like a state level Justice Department. It was like in Massachusetts or something like that. And also, I believe the FBI also uncovered a whole bunch of documents. So yeah, I get it. And maybe even those documents might amount into the hundreds of thousands. But still, like just because the DOJ, I'm sure, informed not only Congress, but President Trump that, oh, yeah, 30 days, man, that's plenty of time. Yeah, we'll get everything out in 30 days. Well, obviously they missed that deadline, and it doesn't look like we're going to probably get these documents in their entirety for what, 6 months, 8 months, a year? So anyway, moving on, there appear to have been no major new public releases or updates reported since around January 6th, with the process described as ongoing but slow, prioritizing victim privacy. Critics, including some lawmakers, including Reps Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie, have accused the DOJ of delays, over-redaction, and potential violations, even requesting judicial intervention, such as appointing a special master to force fuller compliance, which, by the way, Ro Khanna is a Democrat and Thomas Massie is a Republican, so it's just mentioning that there's bipartisan support in the way that they're putting pressure on the DOJ to release this stuff, like, right now. I mean, it should have been released like 3 freaking weeks ago. Some X posts and reports reflect public frustration and speculation about the pace, but no blockbuster quote-unquote client list or major new exposures have emerged from what's been released so far, consistent with prior DOJ statements that no such formalized blackmail list exists. For the latest primary source, check the official DOJ Epstein page, justice.gov/Epstein, which I will link in the description below. The situation remains fluid, with pressure continuing for complete transparency. So if it really does number at least 5.2 million pages in total, of course, the mainstream media, I'm sure they're going to hire third-party individuals that are going to comb over every single page. Yet, what about the redacted materials? Buried in 5.2 million pages, there could be redacted information that may include certain elements of a client list, or maybe powerful individuals that the public, by federal law at this point, must be made aware of. And if they black it out, how are we going to know whether if they blacked out strictly only the victims' names and not anyone else? Because everything that's blacked out is going to be classified. So it's probably not like Democrats can hire third-party individuals to go through all of the redacted information to make sure that it was actually victims and not other powerful individuals. I'm not so sure about that. I mean, that's the problem with redacting and classified information, and you just simply have to just, throw your hands up and just, I guess, well, we're just going to have to trust the government, because what other choice do we have? I mean, not maybe trust isn't the best way to put that, but, there's really no way we're going to actually know 100% for sure. And we're not going to get any truth out of Democrats. So let's say the Democrats did hire a whole bunch of people to go through all the redacted information. Let's say they're legally allowed to do that. And even if they did find powerful individuals, it seems statistically at this point, any powerful people that they find that could be redacted would probably be aligned with the left and not on the right. And of course, they're not going to say anything about that if they do uncover any names. But anyway, when can we expect the next release of documents to occur? So there is no publicly announced specific date for the next release of Jeffrey Epstein-related documents by the Department of Justice. As of the most recent updates in early January 2026, the process remains ongoing, with no new tranches reported since the initial batches around December 19th through the 23rd of 2025. So that really sucks. It just goes into just more information in more detail, pretty much covering what I believe I've already talked about. So that's the latest on the Epstein information. I think it was like a week ago I said that I would give an update if there was anything to update, which there hasn't been anything to update. So I just figured I might as well just check in on it regardless, because it's being completely buried by what's going on with Venezuela and Iran and all the Minnesota bullshit with the fraud and and all the ICE raids, and it goes on and on and on. Now there's protesting over what's her name that was shot by an ICE agent because she tried to run him over, and it just, yeah, man, it's just getting buried underneath all of these scandals that just keep just piling up and piling up. It's like a daily basis we're getting another scandal happening. All right, so anyway, we're going to move on to the Federal Reserve, which I played this video on yesterday's video that I posted. Not a swamp episode technically, but I missed doing the swamp on Friday because I went on a camping trip over the weekend, so I had to prepare and pack for it. It was very short notice, so I wasn't adequately prepared, so I didn't have a chance to do the swamp on Friday, so I kind of made up for it by releasing that video on Sunday, which included this video. But I did say that I'm probably going to play it for tonight, and I'm playing it tonight because I have additional information after we watch this video. So this is a video message from Federal Reserve Chair Jerome H. Powell, and he's also got a link, I'm assuming his statement just written, also the video clip too. Yeah, so it's basically everything that he says in the video, but regardless, everything I click on, I link, so let's give this a watch.
Good evening. On Friday, the Department of Justice served the Federal Reserve with grand jury subpoenas, threatening a criminal indictment related to my testimony before the Senate Banking Committee last June. That testimony concerned, in part, a multi-year project to renovate historic Federal Reserve office buildings. I have deep respect for the rule of law and for accountability in our democracy. No one, certainly not the chair of the Federal Reserve, is above the law. But this unprecedented action should be seen in the broader context of the administration's threats and ongoing pressure. This new threat is not about my testimony last June or about the renovation of the Federal Reserve buildings.
But
it is. About Congress's oversight role. The Fed, through testimony and other public disclosures, made every effort to keep Congress informed about the renovation project.
Which, by the way, was at least, if not well over $2.5 billion. The Federal Reserve spent $2,500 million renovating an existing building, a building that's already there. I mean, how much renovation did the Federal Reserve really need? Probably little to nothing at all. I mean, the FBI, there were billions of dollars that were allocated to the FBI so they could build a brand new headquarters. Kash Patel found, the Reagan building in Washington, D.C. He's like, this building's just fine. It's already there. Let's just move everything over there. It's more space, which is exactly what we need. We don't have to build a whole new building. They did just that. So I'm not saying that the Federal Reserve could have found just a simple vacant building, but I mean, how much bigger does the Federal Reserve need to be? And how much, that would be my big question would be, how much square footage have they actually added to the Federal Reserve with this renovation? I mean, did they double the size of the building? I mean, $2,500 million? That would provide a lot of square footage, I would imagine.
Pretexts. The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president. This is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation. I have served at the Federal Reserve under 4 administrations, Republicans and Democrats alike. In every case, I have carried out my duties without political fear or favor.
Yeah, because it sounds like they can't easily fire you, right?
Focused solely on our mandate of price stability and maximum employment. Public service sometimes requires standing firm in the face of threats. I will continue to do the job the Senate confirmed me to do, with integrity and a commitment to serving the American people. Thank you.
All right. Well, I don't know a whole lot about Jerome Powell on a personal level or a policy level. I don't keep up on daily affairs with regard to the Fed. But I will actually, where is it? Okay, new one. Let's see. How much more space did the Federal Reserve add with their renovations? Let's see if it'll give us in square feet. Maybe it'll have the information, maybe not. Maybe it's something that the public's not privy to. So the Federal Reserve's major ongoing renovation and expansion project. Okay, so it did include an expansion project, primarily the Mariner Eccles building. Eccles, I can't pronounce that, man. I suck with words. And the adjacent 1951 Constitution Avenue FRB East building adds significant space through infill additions, above-ground expansions, five-story infills and additions, filling courtyards and extensive below-ground levels, including underground offices, concourses, parking, and connections Why are they building so much shit underground? I mean, it's the freaking Federal Reserve. What are they doing down there that they don't want the public to know about? That's what I want to know. So public sources do not provide an exact single figure for the net added square footage. No official X square feet added total. Okay, so let's see. However, reliable reporting indicates the completed project will add the combined area of these two buildings to 1.1 million square feet. The pre-renovations Eccles building was 276,000 square feet, and the FRB East building 126, 128. Total roughly about 400 to 404,000. So they're more than doubling the size of the Federal Reserve. Post-renovation combined total 1.1 million square feet. Look, that's what I would really like to know. I'm not going to get into the weeds with this. Maybe that would be a good video for the weekend. Just digging into exactly why does the Federal Reserve need to suddenly double the size of its building? And that, I don't know, man. Like, are they overcrowded with staff in the Federal Reserve right now? You know, they've got these tiny little cubicles. They're basically shoulder to shoulder. So it implies roughly 700,000 square feet added overall. So that's pretty much the gist of what I was looking for. So anyway, let's move on. So C3. Oh, wait, hold on. I actually think I got one more thing. And one more thing I do have. Why does Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell have a grand jury subpoena issued against him? So the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell announced on January 11th that the U.S. Department of Justice served the Federal Reserve with grand jury subpoenas on Friday, threatening a criminal indictment against him. This stems from a criminal investigation into his June 2025 testimony before the Senate Banking Committee regarding a multi-year $2.5 billion renovation project of the Fed's historic headquarters building in D.C. The probe appears to focus on whether Powell's statements to Congress were misleading or inaccurate, e.g. disputing claims of extravagant features like new marble, special elevators, water features, rooftop gardens, which he called misleading. Critics in the Trump administration, including OMB officials, had accused the project of being ostentatious, I think I said that right, and potentially violating laws on taxpayer funds. Powell described the subpoenas as a pretext in an unprecedented escalation in the administration's pressure campaign to influence the Fed's independent monetary policy decisions, particularly interest rates, rather than genuine concern over renovations or testimony. He vowed to continue serving with integrity, emphasizing the Fed's independence. The Justice Department has not publicly confirmed details, and no charges have been filed. Subpoenas are investigative tools to gather evidence. This has raised concerns about threats to central bank independence, with market reactions noted as modest so far. Well, and from what I read somewhere, and it might be on one of the posts that I attached to tonight's episode, there's rumors of VIP lounges that were added inside the Federal Reserve, even some fancy rooftop restaurant or something, pretty much adding elements to it that were pretty clearly not needed if they actually did add that to the Federal Reserve or add those like lounges and restaurants and all that nonsense. So this comes from C3. The exact moment Jerome Powell knew he was effed. Let's take a look.
Billion went up a little bit or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody at the Fed.
Yeah, it just came out.
Our notes had it about 3.1 as well.
3.1.
3.1 million. Or billion.
Yes.
Billion.
I don't know who does that.
You're including the Martin renovation. You just added.
Our entire capital.
Yeah, you just added.
Oh, wait a minute. You're including the Martin renovation. Is that not a part of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell?
A third building is what that is. That's a third building.
Well, no,
Yeah.
It's a building that's being built.
No,
Yeah, it's part of the Federal Reserve, isn't it?
We finished Martin 5 years ago.
It's part of the overall.
Dude, it's all part of the overall renovation. Who cares if it was 5 years, 10 years ago? It's still same the overall project. Have they completed construction fully when it was completed 5 years ago, or did they just continue adding on? See, that's a stupid game, ridiculous games that federal officials play all the time.
It's
So,
not new.
Oh, but yeah. So the building is less than 5 years old, and Jerome Powell's like, well, that building's not new at all. It's not a new
so
building.
we're going to take a look. We're going to see what's happening, and it's.
I mean, like, for real. Like, they renovated a building in the Federal Reserve 5 years ago. Why wasn't that good enough? Why would they need to add another $2.5 billion worth of renovations after they already completed a renovation? I mean, what's next? Are we going to renovate it again in about 5 years from now?
Got a long way. Do you expect any more additional cost overruns?
Thank you.
Don't expect them. We're ready for them, but we have a little bit of a reserve that we may.
He said, we don't expect any cost overruns, but we're ready for them. I believe that's what he said. Did he not? I think that's what he said.
Cost overruns?
Don't expect them. We're ready for them. But we
Well, there
have
you
a
go.
little bit of a reserve that we may use. But no, we don't. We expect to be finished in 2027. We're well along, as you can see.
Nice to take these off every once in a while when we're not in.
Oh, man. Talk about tension in the air. A lot of tension. I mean, you could just feel the tension. Okay, so I've got this from Rep. Anna Paulina Luna. In July 2025, I formally referred Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell to the Department of Justice for potential perjury and false statements to Congress and senior administration officials. I laid out in detail how Jerome Powell lied under oath to Congress and misrepresented facts in official communications to senior administration officials, including OMB Director Russell Vought. Unelected bureaucrats do not get a free pass. This is exactly why oversight exists, and I'm thankful to the DOJ, or that the DOJ is taking this seriously. No one is above the law. And she also said, this is back July 31st? No, June 21st of 2025. I have formally referred Jerome Powell to the DOJ for criminal investigation. Chairman Powell knowingly misled both Congress and executive branch officials about the true nature of a taxpayer-funded project. Lying under oath is a serious offense, especially from someone tasked with overseeing our monetary system and public trust. Yikes. Fed Chair Jerome Powell hit with a criminal referral by House GOP Rep. Luna, who just so happens to be my rep. That's who I voted for. Actually voted for her a couple times. All right, so Gunther Eagleman. We're going to move on to the next. Justin Trump advisor Peter Navarro eviscerates a Fed Chair Jerome Powell, now under criminal investigation. Quote, he is the poster child for politicizing the Fed. We know he made false statements. Powell needs to go.
Respect to Chairman Powell. First of all, the Fed is politicized. Chairman Powell is the worst Fed chair since Arthur Burns, and he is the poster child for politicizing the Fed. The only reason why he's still there is because he papered over the fiscal irresponsibility of Joe Biden and got America into an inflation crisis that President Trump is in the process of curing.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know there's different schools of thought on it, but I've heard from more than one person, one of which was an expert. Man, his name escapes me at the moment. He's some economy guru out of Texas, and he highly recommended and suggested that the Fed should have upped the interest rates up to damn near double digits, if not over double digits, like during the height of the COVID pandemic. Mainly with regard to housing, because just housing was just getting out of control. It did get out of control. It is out of control, and I'm not sure if they can even fix that at this point.
Spare me on that. But if you actually look at what he's being investigated for, I mean, look, it looks like there's like luxury elevators and dining rooms. He claims that the thing was never renovated before, when in fact it was
5 years ago.
It's just, let's see what the investigation says. And the funny part, like, just Powell gets up there and says it's politicized and it's the tariffs that's the problem, why the costs went up. Hey, come on, Jay. Come on,
Jay. Oh, wow,
Jay.
Really? Well, wait a minute. For him to say that the tariffs are the problem, what examples can you give us exactly? Because Democrats are not helping me out with that at all. I'd like to know specifically what products are we dealing with regard to tariffs and skyrocketing prices. They said it was going to be the car market, but the car market hasn't really changed. If anything, vehicles have gone down this year, especially electric vehicles. Electric vehicles, especially their resale value, is just absolutely in the shitter. And I honestly kind of feel bad that people bought into that propaganda that it was just going to keep going up and up, and everybody was going to drive EVs by 2030 and whatever. So anyway.
Do your job. Since you got there, you've made three major blunders that have cost this economy $1 trillion easily. So let's see what happens with this investigation. The only question is, Maria, we know he made false statements. The only question is whether he was aware and did it with malice. And think about that. If he was ignorant about it, that tells you how ignorant he is when he runs Fed policy.
Yeah, that's either way, he's probably going to look pretty bad. So we'll just have to wait and see when that happens. Not if, but when it's going to happen. Will it be behind closed doors? I certainly hope not. I wouldn't think it would be behind closed doors unless the original one where he spoke to Congress was. I'm not aware whether if it was or not. But anyway, we'll go ahead and move on to Captain Mark Kelly. Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth have tried to silence me for speaking out. Today, I'm fighting back because this isn't just about me. This is about the rights of all retired veterans and all Americans, and I'm not going to let this administration take those away.
Hey, folks. So today I filed a federal lawsuit against Pete Hegseth and the administration. And here's why. Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth sent a chilling message to every retired member of the military.
Ooh, so chilly.
If you speak out and say something that the president or the Secretary of Defense does not like,
well, you didn't just say something.
Threatened with a reduction in retirement grade, or even prosecuted. They're abusing their authority to silence the voices that they find inconvenient, even when the speech is protected by the First Amendment. That warning is not just alarming, it's unconstitutional. And that's why I'm fighting back. So thank you for standing with me through all of this, and I'll keep you posted.
Well, look, I'm not aware of any, hardly any military lingo, but there's some oath that he's taken or something that he's still responsible for in the way that he receives retirement benefits. He could be called to duty or something like that because he was an officer or whatever. But yeah, apparently, well, not apparently, the Department of War absolutely has the ability and, in my opinion, the justification to do that. Because he was on a video with other Democrats. I believe those Democrats had formerly served in the military, instructing active service members to defy orders from Trump. Now, they didn't specifically said defy lawful orders. They didn't say, well, actually, I think they did, to be honest. I think they said in the video that you have no duty to follow unlawful orders given by the president. However they worded it, that's what he's being censured for. If I had the video in front of me, I'd play it, but I've already played it several times on this show, but it's pretty easy to find. So anyway, this is also from Senator Mark Kelly. It's much longer. This is when he goes into great detail. I don't know why he didn't just include all this in his video. But anyway, I'll read it because it's here. So he posted this 7 hours ago. Pete, or as of this recording at least, currently it's 9 o'clock. So actually, here, I'll give you the exact time. 1:53 p.m. today, January 12th. And he says, Pete Hegseth is coming after what I earned through my 25 years of military service in violation of my rights as an American, as a retired veteran, and as a U.S. Senator whose job is to hold him and this or any administration accountable. His unconstitutional crusade against me sends a chilling message to every retired member of the military. If you speak out and say something that the President or Secretary of Defense doesn't like, you will be censured, threatened with demotion, or even prosecuted. Every service member knows military rank is earned, not given. It's earned through the risks you take, the sacrifices you and your family make, and the leadership you display, and the respect you earn from the superiors who recommend you for promotion. From the moment I drove through the gates of Naval Air Station Pensacola, when I was shot at over Iraq and Kuwait, he never lets us forget that, and when I landed Space Shuttle Endeavour on its last mission, also never lets us forget that, I gave everything I had to this country and earned my rank of Captain, U.S. Navy. Now Pete Hegseth wants our longest-serving military veterans to live with the constant threat that they could be deprived of their rank and pay years or even decades after they leave the military just because he or another Secretary of Defense doesn't like what they've said. It's not the way things work in the United States of America, and I won't stand for it. In 1986, oh yeah, here we go. He reminds us of this all the time. In 1986, at just 22 years old, I took an oath to protect and defend the Constitution. I fulfilled that oath every day since, but I never expected I would have to defend it against the Secretary of Defense or President. But I've never shied away from a fight for our country, and I won't shy away from this one, because our freedom of speech, the separation of powers, and due process are not just words on a page. They're the bedrock principles of our democracy that has lasted 250 years and will last 250 more as long as patriotic Americans are willing to stand up for our rights. So today, I filed a lawsuit against the Secretary of Defense because there are a few things as important as standing up for the rights of the very Americans who fought to defend our freedoms. Yada, 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 yada. Tiny trader Dickied has more thoughts, a.k.a. Alex Soros biatch. Yep. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I always got so many pictures with Alex Soros. I wonder why. I really wonder why. Okay, Mark Kelly is a seditious traitor. Pete Hegseth is a decorated war hero. Well, there you go. Pass it on. Yeah, because the left, they say, well, he's just a Fox News pundit. He's just a Fox News anchor. That's all he does. Or that's all he's done. It doesn't appear that way now, does it? It's called FAFO. And I'm not familiar with that. Number one in Kelly v. Hegseth. Oh, okay, courtlistener.com. So are these the documents? Yeah. So this is the filing that he's filed for his lawsuit against Pete Hegseth. So you know what? Now that I got it open, I'll link that. I didn't expect to come across this, so that's good. I did. Senator Mark Kelly is a retired Navy captain, sitting U.S. senator, member of the Senate Armed Services Committee and Select Committee on Intelligence, and then it goes on for like another 46 pages. You know, some of these court documents are quite lengthy. I wonder who's paying for all of his legal fees. I mean, what a senator makes like what, 200K a year, give or take. I'm sure there's probably some, I don't know, political action committee or some deep Democrat shell company or God knows what who's probably covering the arguable millions of dollars of court fees that's probably going to cost. All right, so libtard grinder. Activities, so this is 18 U.S.C. section 2387. Activities affecting armed forces generally criminalizes knowingly advising, counseling, or urging any member of the U.S. military to disobey, desert, or refuse lawful orders with intent to interfere with military operations or loyalty. Penalty up to 20 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. Yeah, see, he's interfering with loyalty. When he made that video saying that you don't have to obey an unlawful order given to you by the president. I mean, to me, that sounds like he's directly trying to interfere with the military's loyalty with the commander-in-chief, who's President Donald Trump, of course. So, Senator Mark Kelly, you're a traitor. And anyway, it goes on from there. Oh, that's hilarious. So, all right. Anyway, we'll move on to the next post, which is still under the Mark Kelly scandal. I retired. Oh, this is from Cynical Publius. I retired from active duty at the same rank as you did. I sleep well at night and have zero fear that my status as a retired officer will be used against me. Why? Because I never have engaged and never will engage in seditious behavior against the United States of America, as you have. You have only yourself to blame. All right, so came across that, and that might actually be the last one I have. Oh, no, so here's the last one. Senator Mark Kelly, Democrat from Arizona, has filed a federal civil lawsuit against Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. And that's just the top page. Yeah, just the top section of the first page of the court document, which is now going to be linked below. All right, so we're going to move on to the Iran situation, which is still ongoing. Absolutely crazy. I don't think that it's settling down at all. There's rumors that Iraqi forces are now entering the country, and they're defending the Ayatollah or whatever against the citizens of Iran. Not sure if that's official, but it's something that I've read here and there throughout the day. So this is from President Trump's Truth Social. Iran is looking at freedom, perhaps like never before. The U.S. stands ready to help President Donald J. Trump, which was posted by the House Foreign Affairs Committee majority. And got another one. The Islamic regime in Tehran does not have the support of its own people. Iranians demand freedom. And of course, he's putting up the actual Iranian flag, the one with the lion and the sun. Anyway, Hamad Nazari, January 2026, Iran. An Iranian woman lies next to her sister's body after she was killed by the Islamic Republic during the protests. No context can soften this image. No statement can justify it. This is not unrest. And I looked at it. It's not crazy. It's just what appears to be a body bag. So, you know, because of course, with this being YouTube, you can't show, things that are too graphic, which this isn't, in my opinion. So this is the cost of demanding basic rights. This is happening now, and it needs to be seen. Hashtag Iran and hashtag Iran massacre. So that's the image of her laying with her sister that was killed during the protests, which I imagine may have been as recent as last night. And we've got this from the man himself, who just so happens to be Iran's supreme leader, who I cannot pronounce, probably never will be able to pronounce, but I can give it a try. So Imam Saeed Ali Khamenei, I think. Ali Khamenei. All right, anyway, in the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, the great Iranian nation, today you accomplished a great deed and made a historic day. And this was posted just 8 hours ago. Not sure when this was taken. It says it was taken January 12th, 2026. I'm not sure. Like, I'm assuming these are all the people who are protesting against the Iranian regime. So not really sure why you would post this, making it sound like that, like he supports everybody in this context, but whatever. Anyway, Tausi TV breaking: the anti-Islamic occupation crowd in Tehran is growing massively tonight. Iranians are refusing to surrender. Let's check this out. If it'll load. Here we go. All right, so there's that one. I've got another. It might be the same video, but it doesn't look like it. It's definitely in the same area, of course. So this is from Isaac from just 6 hours ago. Breaking news: current images are arriving through Starlink of a large demonstration in Tehran, Iran. The Iranian people are overcoming the regime's censorship and needs us to be their voice. Share this everywhere. Make it go viral. And again, it might be the same clip. Yeah, it's the same clip. Okay, but yeah, that's the latest clip that I came across. And again, it was just a few hours ago when that was posted. And we've got this from the White House. And the president says, here, effective immediately, any country doing business with the Islamic Republic of Iran will pay a tariff of 25% on any and all business being done with the United States of America. This order is final and conclusive. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. So it says just simply paying a tariff of 25% on any and all business. I'm not sure if that means above and beyond what they're already paying. Not sure about that. It didn't specify that, so I'm assuming it's probably not above and beyond what they're already paying, if any. But anyway, so this is from, let me see. Okay, yeah, it looks like, yeah. Okay, just making sure it was still in the same vein. So Neo Berg says, really disturbing Starlink message. Quote, I have news from someone in Desful. The city is under siege by Hashid Ash-Shabi, which are Iraqi terrorist militia. They are beastly mercenaries with covered faces who can't understand Persian, and they only speak Arabic. The whole city is on curfew, and there's an atmosphere of terror and dread everywhere. Snipers are positioned on taller buildings in the last few days, head shooting people at random. They have no mercy and don't discriminate between children, teenagers, or the elderly. Anyone leaving the house risks being shot by snipers or killed by mercenaries on the ground. It's very likely that the situation is similar in other cities in Khuzestan province. They are getting massacred in total silence, no news coverage, and isolation. Please speak up for Desful and other smaller cities. And that received about almost 365,000 views. And so that is horrific to hear. And this is from disclose.tv. Just in, U.S. virtual embassy in Iran, quote, leave Iran now. And I know the text is a little small. I can't zoom in because X platform won't let me do that with images. So this is from January 13th, 2026. Location, Iran. Technically, it's January the 12th, but they're hours ahead of us. They're like 12, 13 hours ahead of us because obviously they're on the other side of the planet. And us being in the West, we're behind most of the world as far as time goes. So issued technically tomorrow, but we all get it. So anyway, location, Iran. Countrywide event. Protests across Iran are escalating and may turn violent, resulting in arrests and injuries, increased security measures, road closures, public transportation disruptions, and internet blockages are ongoing. The government of Iran has restricted access to mobile, landline, and national internet networks. Airlines continue to limit or cancel flights to and from Iran, with several suspending service until Friday, January 16th. U.S. citizens should expect continued internet outages, plan alternative means of communication, and, if safe to do so, consider departing Iran by land to Armenia or Turkey. Actions to take. Leave Iran now, which is highlighted in red, bold highlight. Have a plan for departing Iran that does not rely on U.S. government help. If you cannot leave, find a secure location within your residence or another safe building. Have a supply of food, water, medications, and other essential items. Avoid demonstrations. Keep a low profile and stay aware of your surroundings. Monitor local media for breaking news. Be prepared to adjust your plans. Keep your phone charged and maintain communication with family and friends to inform them of your status. Enroll in the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program, or STEP for short, to receive the latest updates on security in Iran. If you plan to leave Iran, U.S. Iranian dual nationals must exit Iran on Iranian passports. The Iranian government does not recognize dual nationality and will treat U.S. Iranian dual nationals solely as Iranian citizens. U.S. nationals are at significant risk of questioning, arrest, and detention in Iran. Showing a U.S. passport or demonstrating connections to the United States can be reason enough for Iranian authorities to detain someone. The U.S. government cannot guarantee your safety if you choose to depart using the following options. You should leave only if you believe it is safe to do so. And again, that's from the U.S. Virtual Embassy in Iran. When was that posted? Just 3 hours ago. So that was very recent. And this is from TravelGov, 4 hours. Iran protests across Iran are escalating. Increased security measures, road closures, public transportation disruptions, and internet blockages are ongoing. Airlines continue to limit or cancel flights to and from Iran, with several suspending service until Friday. So we already basically read the same thing. Yeah, it actually looks like it's coming from the embassy. So anyway, I will link that just in case that those are two separate links. And we've got this from Senator Jim Banks 4 hours ago. It's 1:32 a.m. in Tehran, and another night of the brave Iranian people fighting for freedom. They have a real shot at ending this brutal terror regime once and for all. America stands with them. And this from Steve Daines. This is a Berlin Wall moment for the Middle East. America stands with the people of Iran as they fight to restore their freedom and liberty. Let's hear him out.
Larry, let's be clear. The Iranian people will drive the regime change regardless of any action taken by the United States. Right. This is a Berlin Wall moment for the Middle East. If you're 45 years old or younger, you've only grown up knowing there's been an Ayatollah in charge in Iran. But I'm old enough to remember, you are as well, Larry, that we used to have Iran as an ally of the United States.
Yeah, what was that, 1979?
The Iranians were helping us in the Middle East. They were helping us push back on then the Soviet influence in the Middle East. This is a remarkable moment. And by the way, it's not by accident. It's been very intentional because of great leaders like President Trump and Bibi Netanyahu, with moral clarity, been very decisive. They understand what it takes here to restore true peace and prosperity in the Middle East. And you think about the Iranians and this regime, not the people, but the regime, are the leading state sponsor of terrorism in the world. Let's not forget that. Hezbollah exists because of Iran. Hamas exists. The Houthis exist because of this current regime. So thank God for the resolve of President Trump, for the B-2 bombers that hit Fordo, for the message sent, as Senator Blackburn said, taking out the oil fields. The revenues have been declining, putting Iran in a crisis economically speaking. This is a moment that's been set up, and we pray and hope for the change coming here in Iran. They'll break the right way, and they'll really restore freedom and liberty to the great people of Iran.
Yeah, and inflation in Iran has skyrocketed in the last few months. And over the last year, it's gone up something like 100%, which, from what I've read, that's the catalyst for what caused all of the protesting to break out. It's just the fact that their currency is it's just like disappearing in value right before their very eyes. So they're protesting not only that, but they're protesting the regime, of course, too. But anyway, so we're going to move on to a rapid response 47 from earlier today. The press secretary, she gives a long quote. It talks about the transition in Venezuela, so we'll hear what she says about that.
I think the last week has shown that the president made the right, realistic assessment of what needed to take place in Venezuela at this moment in time. And the interim authorities and Delcy Rodriguez and her team have been very cooperative with the United States and the president and his team, as evidenced by the massive energy deal that the president was able to cut with the interim authorities, their commitment to release Venezuelan political prisoners, which we also saw last week. So we've seen a great level of cooperation, and the president expects that to continue.
Yeah, they have released some political prisoners. However, there still are hundreds that are still in prison, which they could be released at any time. It might have just been released moments ago. I don't know. But last I saw, there's apparently still hundreds of political prisoners still being housed in Venezuela. So this is from Karoline Leavitt. Trump wants Cuba to make a deal before it's too late. So how is Cuba tied up into all this? Well, apparently they sent security forces into Venezuela to, I guess, protect the Maduro regime, I guess. So Trump warns Cuba to make a deal before it's too late. And it goes on. Oh, man, it's going to freaking paywall. Oh, yeah. Hold on. All right. I know Daily Wire. I know what I can do. I know I can do Daily Wire. All right, so let me just do a little, well, I'm not going to use the HACK word because that's not what I'm doing right now. All I'm doing is just simply opening up a different window, and we're going to give this another shot. I'm just stuck with this little bar at the bottom, but that's all right. So anyway, President Donald Trump delivered a clear warning to Cuba on Sunday, urging the communist island nation to make a deal with the United States and saying there would be no more oil or money going to Cuba from Venezuela. The president took to his Truth Social platform to lay out his thoughts on the matter, saying also that because the United States had arrested Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro, there was no longer a need for Cuban security services to defend his regime. Quote, Cuba lived for many years on large amounts of oil and money from Venezuela, Trump explained. In return, Cuba provided security services for the last two Venezuelan dictators, but not anymore. Trump went on to note that the United States had quickly dispatched the Cubans providing security to the Maduro regime when American military operators had extracted the former dictator a week prior. Quote, most of those Cubans are dead from last week's USA attack, and Venezuela doesn't need protection anymore from the thugs and extortionists who held them hostage for so many years, Trump explained. Venezuela now has the United States of America, the most powerful military in the world by far, to protect them, and protect them we will. Quote, there will be no more oil or money going to Cuba. Zero, he declared. I strongly suggest they make a deal before it is too late. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Just hours earlier, the president shared a post from conservative columnist Mark Thiessen, who said, the Cuban regime has survived every president since Eisenhower. Wouldn't it be something if that streak ended with Donald Trump? When jokes followed about Secretary of State Marco Rubio soon becoming president of Cuba, Trump responded simply, sounds good to me. Yeah, I believe Marco Rubio's parents, I believe that they're Cuban immigrants, I think, which, of course, Marco Rubio, senator from Florida. Anyway, and on Saturday evening, Trump shared another post stating that interim leaders in Venezuela were already moving to cooperate with American interests and had begun to free political prisoners, despite previously claiming under Maduro that Venezuela did not hold prisoners for political reasons. Venezuela has started the process in a big way of releasing their political prisoners. Thank you. I hope those prisoners will remember how lucky they got that the USA came along and did what had to be done. I hope they never forget. If they do, it will not be good for them, Trump warned on Saturday. And it looks like that's it. And that's it for that article. And we'll roll back to the next. I believe that's the only post I had with regard to Venezuela tonight. But of course, I'll keep an eye out for anything else that comes out of Venezuela. Well, actually, that's technically two. You know, like the Cuba post from Karoline Leavitt. I mean, it's directly related to Venezuela. All right, so this comes from Homeland Security. This individual was arrested for assaulting federal law enforcement officers under 18 U.S.C. 111, assaulting, resisting, or impeding federal officers. And this individual posted the following, who is a Furkan Gozu Kara, whatever. Again, like, who's he with? PhD, computer engineer, AI, Juan, Quinn, yada, yada. All right, so not sure like why he's so tied in with this, but all right. Anyway, he posted, damn, ICE grabbed a 17-year-old Target worker at his job despite him saying he's a U.S. citizen. After confirming he was, they dumped him in a Walmart lot 8 minutes away. Bystanders found him sobbing, bleeding. They slammed me on the ground. So yeah, again, DHS, or Homeland Security, believe that they already corrected the record, which we already read. So let's take a look at this. I mean, according to DHS, he was arrested. He wasn't dropped off at Walmart. I mean, generally, if they arrest you, they take you in.
You guys are all on video.
Hey, at least the left's all about peace, love, acceptance, happiness. Because that's so peaceful. Fuck you. That's peaceful.
What's your name? What's your name?
Jonathan Aguilar Garcia. I'm literally a U.S. citizen.
Who assaulted agents. Fucking idiot.
Why are you kidnapping our citizen?
They're kidnapping him!
Why are you?
Oh my god!
Sir, give us your phone number. We'll call your family. Give us your phone number.
Dude, last thing that you want to do is give these idiots your fucking phone number. Because they're going to scare your family completely to death. They kidnapped him. They took off I saw the plane leave the country. He's disappeared forever. You're never going to see your son again.
What's your name? What's your name?
They're arresting another wacko. Let me guess, obstruction.
Hey! Get back there now!
Give us your what's the phone number?
If they are arresting him for obstruction, it's about damn time. Oh my God, he's giving him his number. What an idiot.
Your mom will call you. And your first name's Christian, right?
Yeah, we're going to call your mom and scare her completely to death. And we're going to convince her that she's never going to see her son again. Last thing I would want are these idiot leftists freaking calling my parents. Yeah, right. Get the hell out of here. Okay, so that happened. Trisha McLaughlin from 10 hours ago. This is not a woman. It is a man, and he had to use the restroom. So first, let me show this first so we can get a little bit of detail. So from Worm Stepper, says breaking an ISCOV agent in Minneapolis is seen bringing a woman in handcuffs into a porta potty, then follows her in and closes the door. Would love to see how freaks will defend this. Is he tactically taking her clothes off while handcuffed? I don't know about all that, but I guess we'll see the video.
Oh, y agarraron a alguien. Ah, por...
Oops. Slip and fall.
¿Por qué?
Agarraron a alguien, llevan a alguien.
¿Cierto? No, pero
sí.
No.
Sí. Porque el guardia se bajó, él se bajó con él.
Why the hell were they filming anyway? Like, the hell's just, got their camera on the ready to film people walking up to a porta potty. Okay. All right, so anyway, Trisha McLaughlin says this is not a woman, it is a man, and he had to use the restroom. We don't deny people the bathroom. It is standard, long-standing policy to never allow a subject in custody to enter an enclosed area alone as they are under arrest and could barricade themselves in. Absolutely. Procedure is same used in any location. Plus, they may have not adequately searched him fully, could possibly be dumping drugs into the porta potty. There's more than just one reason why they don't allow them to isolate themselves while they're currently under arrest. All right, Homeland Security. Secretary Noem and President Trump have led with the facts, and they've led with a very measured response. I hope we can start to see that from Governor Pritzker from Illinois and Governor Tim Walz, of course, from Minnesota, at Trisha, Ohio. Oh, yeah, Trisha McLaughlin. Sanctuary politicians are allowing situations around the country to become volatile. They're not doing their jobs, and they haven't for years. The Trump administration is going to deliver transparency and give answers because that's what the American people deserve. Well, it's because the Democratic Party, their power is very highly threatened at this point. So this is what it looks like when you got a party who's quickly losing power and they're in full-on chaos mode. They just, they're just throwing everything at the wall, hoping that something sticks. And now they've got, the fringe far leftists defending literally illegal immigrants who commit R words and robberies and murders. And yeah, man, they're defending all these people. It's effing insane. So let's hear this.
We want to give the American people as much transparency as we can. We've given them the facts and we'll continue to do that. And, Secretary Noem and President Trump have led with the facts and they've led with a very measured response. I hope we can start to see that from J.B. Pritzker. We can start to see that from Governor Walz. I won't hold my breath. But let's take back a second and talk about why our officers are on the ground in the first place in Minneapolis. We've seen rampant fraud there. That's why we've surged Homeland Security investigators there. About $9 billion in fraud, but we think that's just the tip of the iceberg. And hopefully in the next coming weeks, we're going to have more information for the American people on what we've seen with that. But we've also seen a massive amount of immigration fraud and criminal illegal aliens who reign with terror around Minnesota. And Tim Walz, unfortunately, will not do anything about it. Your viewers may have seen the criminal illegal alien list that we released this week. We're talking about pedophiles, murderers, kidnappers, really horrendous individuals who pose a public safety threat to Minnesotans. And so what really should be happening is our state and local leaders should be working hand in glove with our ICE law enforcement agents. When our ICE law enforcement agents are facing these kind of protests, these kind of riots that turn violent, they should have the backing of local law enforcement to prevent these kind of situations from turning dangerous or, in this case, deadly.
Yeah, one would think so, but nope. And not only will Governor Walz not do anything about the immigrant criminals, The Minnesota AG, Keith Ellison, is trying to force out ICE with lawsuits, for crying out loud, which we're going to get to that here in just a second. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Oh, actually, it looks like we're going to get to it right now. So DHS operates in every state and every territory. Any statement to the contrary is false, because apparently Minnesota officials, including the mayor, suggested that ICE is not in Texas or in Florida, and it's only blue states that they're coming after, which isn't true at all. And matter of fact, in the state of Florida, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement with the Florida government, they conducted the largest immigration raid statewide, arresting over 10,000 illegal immigrants in just this state alone. And apparently that was the largest raid that ICE had ever conducted in a single state and within a single time frame. So yeah, they're very much in every single state. So let's give this a watch. Minnesota sues DHS to stop ICE enforcement. Uh-oh. If it'll play. Let's see if it plays. All right. It took a minute, but I got it.
Clear, just as a point of clarification. Ellison and Fry said you do not place DHS agents, ICE or CBP, in Florida or in Texas. That instead you send them to places like Minnesota because they are blue.
God, it's quality, man.
Because they have Democrat mayors, Democrat governors.
Apologies.
And Congressman Wesley Hunt was just with us, and he said, in fact, those DHS employees are in Texas and Florida in addition to Minnesota. But you're suggesting you are not seeing the same type of reaction in those states, so you don't hear about their presence, and they cooperate with DHS.
100% will, and I'll just tell you that ICE and DHS is in all 50 states and territories and 56 nations around the world. So we've always been
56
there. We've been
nations.
doing immigration enforcement for decades. So those statements that they made were just so false.
Yeah, not only are they all over the country, they're all over the freaking world. I did not know that about ICE. All right, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement from 4 hours ago. Why is ICE in Minnesota and not in Florida, Texas, or Utah? A, ICE, or answer, ICE has a presence in every state. However, we do not need to surge resources to Florida, Texas, or Utah because, unlike Minnesota, these states work with ICE to detain and deport criminal illegal aliens. So we'll hear this quick clip that they shared.
There are countless more people that are undocumented in Florida and Texas and Utah. Why are they in these much smaller cities in the middle of the Midwest? There are countless more people that are undocumented in Florida and Texas and Utah. Why are they in these much smaller cities in the middle of the Midwest?
Much smaller cities. Yeah, Minneapolis is so tiny. Utah is so vast with, hundreds of millions of people that live in Utah. I mean, it's such a crowded state, Haven't you heard? Okay. Let's see. Oh yeah, I left this. ICE and DHS just finished the largest illegal apprehension operation ever, and it happened in Florida, where over 10,000 illegals were arrested, thanks to the help of my governor, Ron DeSantis. I forgot I left that. All right, so FBI Director Kash Patel. So we're going to move on, and we're going to go over Tren de Aragua. So this weekend, the FBI arrested Luis Nino Moncada, an illegal alien in Portland with alleged ties to Tren de Aragua, one of the individuals who was charged with attacking CBP officers with his vehicle. Nino Moncada is now charged with aggravated assault on a federal officer with a deadly weapon. This FBI will continue surging resources to support our partners. If you attack our law enforcement, you will be caught. And again, that was from FBI's Kash Patel, the director of the FBI. And this is from Attorney General Pamela Bondi. Anyone who crosses the red line of assaulting law enforcement will be met with the full force of this Justice Department. According to a newly unsealed complaint, Luis Nino Moncada is an illegal alien in Portland, Oregon with ties to Tren de Aragua. He's alleged to have repeatedly rammed a Border Patrol vehicle, threatening the lives of federal law enforcement officers. He should never have been in our country to begin with, and we will ensure he never walks free in America again. So there's a vehicle he damaged, and it's like more of the same, damaged the same vehicle. It's like a Hyundai. And there you go. So those are the images that they shared. So yeah, assaulting a federal agent with a deadly weapon. That sounds like it may carry decades in prison. All right, so from U.S. Attorney Janine Pirro, and she says, just a few hours ago, as alleged, stealing 240 government-issued phones worth over $150,000 is a direct betrayal of the public trust. That's taxpayer money meant to serve Americans, not line someone's pockets. Accountability matters, and no one is above the law. So what is she talking about here? This is from U.S. Attorney D.C. According to the government's evidence from approximately April of 2020 until July of 2023, Sutherland worked as a system administrator for the House of Representatives Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. As a system administrator, Sutherland was authorized to order cell phones for committee staff members. So this dude was what, like ordering duplicates or ordering like far and beyond the number that he was supposed to be ordering and pocketed all of them is what it sounds like. But we've got this from justice.gov, and it says former congressional employee arrested and indicted in theft of 240 cell phones, 240, and it was apparently worth $150,000, and it was just 240. Look, I suck at math, but I will at least attempt to give this a shot. So $150,000 divided by 240. So, okay, yeah, 625 per phone. All right, yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, what, like the average American spends like, what, $1,000 on a phone these days? I want to say my phone was like $240, which is by far the most money I've ever spent on a phone. But, you know, I finally wanted a nice phone after all these years, so I got one. But yeah, man, 1,000, 1,500, I think some of the iPhones, like, they're up to what, like $2,000 now? So, yeah, I guess 625 is kind of reasonable, I suppose. Washington, Christopher Sutherland, age 43 of Glen Burnie, Maryland, was arrested Friday and charged in a federal indictment unsealed in U.S. District Court for stealing approximately 240 government cell phones valued at over $150,000 from the U.S. House of Representatives, announced U.S. Attorney Janine Ferris-Piro. Let's see. As alleged, stealing 240 government-issued phones worth over $150,000 is a direct betrayal of public trust. That's taxpayer money meant to serve Americans, not line someone's pockets. Accountability matters. According to the government's evidence from approximately April 2020 to 23, Sutherland worked as a system administrator. Okay, so we already read all that, basically. So from January of 23 through May of 23, Sutherland allegedly used his position to cause 240 new government cell phones to be shipped directly to his home in Maryland. What an idiot. During that time, there was only approximately 80 staff members on the committee. Sutherland then sold over 200 of the cell phones to a nearby pawn shop. What, you weren't getting paid enough? I'm sure you're getting an adequate salary, probably making a hell of a lot more than most of us make. As part of the scheme, Sutherland allegedly directed an employee at the pawn shop only to sell the phones, quote, in parts, end quote, in order to bypass the house's mobile device management software, which enables the house to remotely secure and monitor its phones. The scheme was first discovered when one of the phones that Sutherland stole was sold whole on eBay to an uninvolved purchaser. When the purchaser first booted up the phone displayed a phone number for the House of Representatives Technology Service Desk. The purchaser called that number, and the House employees soon discovered that several phones purchased by Sutherland were unaccounted for. That is like it's like America's dumbest criminals. Why in the world would you steal a phone from the government and expect to simply get away with it? Of course, it's going to be wired up with all kinds of software, probably even hardware is probably installed in it. You know, that makes it probably very easily able to be tracked. This case is being investigated by the U.S. Capitol Police and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. It's being prosecuted by Assistant U.S. Attorney Jake Green for the District of Columbia. Valuable assistance was provided by Assistant U.S. Attorney Sabina Ayuying and former Assistant U.S. Attorney Paul Courtney. The indictment is merely an allegation. All defendants are presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. And we'll roll on to the next topic. And let's see what we got here. Nope, one more. All right, let's go to Secretary Marco Rubio. Pleasure to welcome Honduras' President-elect Tito Asfura to the State Department and congratulate him on his electoral victory. We reaffirmed our commitment to deepening the U.S.-Honduras partnership to make our hemisphere safer and more prosperous. So yeah, the President-elect of Honduras with Marco Rubio. And this is from Mike Johnson. 2026 is here and everything is on the line. House Republicans have codified President Trump's executive orders, maybe a few of them. There's certainly a hell of a lot more that you should be codifying, that's for damn sure. Also ended the border crisis, passed tax cuts for working families, lower costs, and unleashed energy dominance, but we have more to do. Yeah, dude, you got a lot more to do. We will win, and we must to save America. Yeah, I mean, lower costs in some areas, not so much in other areas. I think a lot of the costs being either flatlined or lower are probably either as a direct result of Trump himself or just the nature or the economy, the market just organically settling down after, you know, a rocky ass last several years under Biden, and also no thanks to freaking COVID bullshit. So anyway, let's give this a watch. if it'll load.
We're no longer in a battle just between Republicans and Democrats. We're in a contrast between two completely different, diametrically opposed worldviews. And we have had one of the most consequential, historic Congresses in the history of this country. In the last 12 months, we've codified more than 70 of President Trump's nation-shaping executive orders. America is looking at a split screen right now. On one side is President Trump and our majorities in Congress delivering on our promises. We ended the border crisis. We passed the largest tax cut in U.S. history. We are restoring American energy dominance. On the other side of that split screen, you see the radical left Marxist Democrats. This is not your father's Democrat Party anymore. And they want to dismantle the very foundations of our republic and everything that we all stand for. If we lose the House majority, the radical left is going to impeach President Trump. They're going to create absolute chaos. We cannot let that happen. Everything is
you better get to work, dude.
In the midterms of 2026, and we have much more to do. We will win next year, and we will save the greatest nation in the history of the world.
Yeah, well, we can only certainly hope so. I know historically speaking, it's not very likely that Republicans are going to retain the House and or the Senate, because during midterm elections, when after whichever political party's president is elected, it tends to be the other party that ends up winning the midterms. So let's hope that doesn't happen, because yeah, they are going to do that. Essentially, the next 2 years of Trump's presidency, yeah, he'll be able to do a lot with the executive orders, his position of commander-in-chief and all the other hats that he wears as president. But as far as Congress goes, if Democrats, if they take the lead in Congress after the midterms, I mean, there's really nothing that's going to get done, at least long-term wise, or anything that's going to be codified under Trump. Nothing. Absolutely nothing will. But anyway, so this got ratioed, of course, to 2,400 likes with 3,500 comments. Typically means that there's a whole lot of people that are not too happy with his post. I mean, that's how ratios work on the X platform, probably on social media in general, I would imagine. But anyway, so you worked 87 days in 2025. Wow, there's approximately 250 days in a normal work year, Monday through Friday, government holidays excluded. For a congressman or a senator making $174,000 a year, base, mind you, that works out to $696 a day. Now, if they worked, say, 87 days in a year, not that would ever happen, obviously, they would have earned $60,000, or $60,552. I propose we pay our elected representatives a flat rate of $1,000 per day for every day they are in session, present, and voting for a minimum of 6 hours on the floor and 2 hours in their office. An additional requirement to earn the money is that they have to vote yay or no on every bill and measure presented to be paid for that day. Voting present would not count for pay purposes. This should appeal to them. They should get paid more and can effectively get a massive raise just by doing their job. Cynical old soldier. I love that idea. That is an absolutely amazing idea, to the point where I'm going to do what I don't normally do. I'm going to repost that. Wow. All right, anyway, so you haven't done anything but stall, block, and take vacations. You have the lowest productivity record in history. You and Leader John Thune are the worst leaders and have no control over Congress. You continue to allow Congress to steal taxpayers' money to fund illegal aliens and fraudulent ACA while you refuse to pass the SAVE Act. Then you voted to take powers away from the president to defend the U.S., affecting our self-defense and national security. Stop patting yourself on the back. You haven't done a damn thing but allow Republicans to run rogue and vote against the 77 million people who voted for change. I think he said that fairly well. I believe it when you and Leader John Thune nuked the filibuster and codified the outstanding executive orders. Oh yeah, that reminds me. I wanted to ask, let me just ask this quick question to see how many executive orders did Trump sign in 2025? I'm just curious, because he said like what, 77? That's how many that they codified into law. So we signed 225. So they didn't even codify nearly half of the executive orders that Trump has signed. Republicans didn't do squat. Yeah, they rarely do a whole lot of anything, in my opinion. Where's the perp walk? Where's the SAVE Act? Where's the repeal the refugee assistance? Why is Ilhan Omar not removed? Also, why are you still dragging your feet on the Epstein files? I mean, that's something that I've agreed with Democrats. Release the damn files. I mean, if anything, it's going to make Democrats look worse than Republicans. It has so far. I mean, pretty much anything that's being released with regard to Jeffrey Epstein, it's made Democrats look worse than Republicans. I still have yet to hear really any Republican that's tied to Jeffrey Epstein, at least in my opinion. Maybe I'm missing, or I'm not thinking of one at the moment, but I can't come up with anything other than the fact that that Jeffrey Epstein had some membership at Mar-a-Lago, like in the 80s or in the 90s or something like that. And once Trump found out who Jeffrey Epstein was, he kicked him out. I mean, that's as far as my knowledge goes. All right, so anyway, we got images there. Yeah, of course, the SAVE Act and Citizens Ratification Amendment, the CRA. By passing the SAVE Act, right? You're going to pass the SAVE Act, right? I somehow doubt it. It really sucks because right now would be a really good time to pass the SAVE Act, especially when we have a midterm coming up. It'd be nice to have fair elections, secured elections, securing the requirement for voter ID, U.S. citizenship, and all that stuff. It'd be nice to have all of that codified all nice and neat, just in time for the midterms. That way it would make it a lot more difficult for Democrats to cheat. But it doesn't sound like that they're interested in passing the SAVE Act for some ridiculous, retarded reason. All right, GOP, give the Somali and Soros donations to the Treasury. Stop taking money from crooks who hate our nation. Stop funding NGOs. Yes, we're under existential threat, but the GOP and Congress are not acting like you understand that. Yep. Tell your buddy Slow Walk Thune to pass the SAVE Act and nuke the filibuster. You have codified a handful of executive orders. I mean, maybe a little bit more than a handful, but still not much more than a handful. You could do even more, being more godly serious. You are an American. You're elected to do one thing, serve the people, so on and so forth. Methinks you may be gaslighting. Which executive orders of President Trump has the GOP-controlled Congress passed? Which ones has the House passed? That's a fair question. Were those 77 executive orders that Congress codified, are they the ones that were most beneficial and positively consequential to the American people, or were they just very obscure, doesn't really do a whole lot either way? I'm not so sure. I mean, and I don't have time to go through every single one that they codified, but you could certainly look it up yourself. I'm sure it's really easy to look it up. Simply just exactly which executive orders did Congress pass of Trump's from 2025. All right. And anyway, I've got one more from Speaker Mike Johnson. Of course I do. Big news. Tax filing season opens January 26th, and the Working Families Tax Cut, which is another way of saying the one big beautiful bill, means $91 billion more in refunds for Americans because they're tacking it on to the national deficit. For many families, that's nearly $4,000 back over 5 months of groceries with zero income taxes for millions. This will be the largest tax refund season in history. Democrats only talk about delivering for working families. Republicans actually do it. And from IRS News, this was back on January 8th, so this was at least a few days ago. Monday, January 26, 2026 will be the first day of the nation's 2026 filing season. IRS expects to receive about 164 million individual income tax returns this year, with most people filing electronically. Find more info here, and I will, of course, link that. I'm assuming it's going to be on irs.gov. Of course it will. So yeah, IRS announces first day of 2026 filing season. Online tools and resources help with tax filing. I'm one of the real bad procrastinators. I think for like the last 3 or 4 years in a row, I filed my taxes on April 15th. And I really have no good reason for doing it. I just honestly forget, because I'm not one of the lucky ones who gets thousands of dollars back on my taxes. I don't think once in my life I've got more than like $1,000. It would sure be nice to get $4,000 back. I'd be over the moon. To be honest with you, I'd probably just buy an ounce of gold. That's probably what I would do. Whether if that's a smart decision or not, I don't know. But anyway, so we'll just move on from that to our NC research from earlier today. Seriously low IQ Jasmine Crockett calls Texas racist, the state she is running to represent in the Senate. Crockett, Texas is racist. How lovely.
Now, some people get a little funny when you start talking about race, but this is real. There was a Trump-appointed justice. I testified because I had already sued the state of Texas because Texas is racist.
Yeah. Oh my God, dude. Yeah, so she's running for senator, Texas. So it's not just her district that she's running for. She's trying to get the entire state's vote. So she just called y'all racist. The whole state in general, it's all racist. So basically, I think probably the platform that she's going to take, or the position she's going to take, is if you don't vote for me, then you're just a racist. Because that sounds like a pretty typical tactic that a Democrat would employ. All right, so this is from Hakeem Jeffries, fly-in presser. Not going to go through it as much as I would love to, because I have fun watching these Hakeem Jeffries, Timu Obama clips. But maybe I'll just play like the opening statement. They're always entertaining because he's just a freaking goofball. Sometimes, yeah, okay. So I would say sometimes he starts right away. Other times it's like halfway through the video by the time he starts. 23 minutes. I'll get ahead of myself and repost it. There's a direct link to my profile in the description below. As I've said before, I don't think you have to be signed into the X platform in order to view content on there. Although it may have changed, but I don't think that you really need to be. But if you are, you could also go straight to Rep. Jeffrey's profile also and view this there if you really, really want to. Let me see if I can skip ahead and see where it starts. I'm assuming he's going to be talking about Obamacare, which he will outright refuse to say. Democrats, that is the last word on the planet that they're going to say. Because they don't want you to remember who is responsible for the disastrous health insurance crisis we find ourselves in. Obamacare. Say it, Timu Obama.
The Affordable Care Act tax credits.
All right, let's start that.
By 3 years, and protecting the health care of tens of millions of Americans.
Oh my God, that is so laughable. Senate Republicans, do your job.
Dramatically increased health insurance premiums. The bill passed by the House is now over in the Senate. It's a bill that was passed
by the way, you can tell he's lying by
bipartisan basis.
Whenever he moves his hands.
Single House Democrat.
That's usually how you know he's lying. Same with Gavin Newsom. When they move their hands, that means there's a lie coming.
The only path forward at this moment is for Senate Republicans to do the right thing by the American
firing machine
people
guns alive.
And pass the damn bill that we sent over to you.
Over there.
There's no reason to do anything other than that.
Don't look over here. Look over there.
The health care of tens of millions of Americans is otherwise at risk. We're talking about working class Americans, middle class Americans, and everyday Americans.
You notice how he's always smirking? Like he doesn't even believe his own bullshit.
Deserve the same level of certainty. That Senate
a certain level of certainty. Not absolute certainty, but just a little bit of certainty.
Their billionaire donors when they pass massive tax breaks for the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected as part of their one big ugly bill last July.
Oh, no, the ugly bill.
Yeah, working class Americans.
Yeah, but dude, what about these subsidies that you're talking about at this podium that you want to pass? Would that not be giving billions of dollars to your buddies in the health insurance companies, your billionaire friends that run the health insurance companies? Isn't that where all of this affordable tax credit subsidies for the next 3 years would be going to? Be going directly to them and not to us, the patients?
Middle-class Americans and everyday Americans have been forced to wait.
Yeah, but we don't want to talk about that.
After month after month. Enough with the partisanship. Enough with the gamesmanship. Enough with the foolishness.
That's rich coming from the Democrats, huh?
Pass the bill.
Stop with the partisanship.
That we know currently in the Senate has majority support. Every single Senate Democrat and at least 4 Senate Republicans.
It's almost as if the Democrats want to nuke the filibuster.
Previously supported a 3-year extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits. From the very beginning of this fight, Democrats have made our position clear. Cancel the cuts, lower the costs, save health care.
That's not possible. It's not possible because it's never happened under Obamacare. Once Obamacare was fully implemented, which I think was in 2014, not a single year, not 1 year has our healthcare costs gone down. Not even by a penny. Every year it's gone up and up and up. Not 1 year it's gone down. And the subsidy, they had to pass the subsidies because Obamacare was getting so wildly out of control for monthly premiums that they had to pass subsidies, which comes from your taxpayer dollars, which is really rich, that they're taking our taxpayer dollars to hand over to the insurance companies and make it artificially appear that we're paying less in health insurance when we're in fact not. And when those subsidies disappear, that's when the curtain falls and then we see how much we're actually paying for our health care because the subsidies, they're masking the real number.
Beginning with a 3-year extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits. We've never wavered from that position. And against all odds.
No, because you literally have nothing else. You're committed to Obamacare at this point.
On a bipartisan basis. It's now over in the Senate. Because Democrats are actually committed to saving health care and lowering the high cost.
They're committed to kicking the can as it gets more and more expensive.
That's who we fight for.
Look, they want to do nothing different with these subsidies. They passed the subsidies back in 2021. Or no, was it 2022, 23, 24, 25? Yeah, it was in 2022 when they passed those subsidies for a 3-year period. Under COVID, because they said we needed these subsidies because of COVID. Now that COVID is long over, not even dealing with it anymore. I know it's still going around, but it's It's not in the news. We don't have to get our passports and all that nonsense. Wear masks everywhere, double, triple mask. It's all over. We don't have to deal with any of that crap anymore, but they want to pass the subsidies anyway. Why? And the reason that they're giving, the Democrats, is because, the premiums are just getting expensive. So we have to take more of your taxpayer dollars and make it appear as though it's not as expensive, which behind the scenes, over the next 3 years, if they were to pass these subsidies, the premiums would keep going up and up. So 3 years from now, it's not going to be, $1,300 on average for an American who's getting affordable health care, or the affordable, what is it? Affordable Care Act. That's what it is. Affordable Care Act. It's just going to continue going up and up. And there's just no end in sight. But what did he say? Save healthcare, lower costs. I'm full of shit. Something like that.
Every day, every week, every month, year after year. And we're in this fight until we win this fight for the American people. Questions?
All right, whatever. So that was short. I know I talked a lot more than he did. I can't help myself, man. Hakeem Jeffries, he's just too much fun to fuck with. I mean, whatever. But anyway, I did repost it if you want to take a look at that yourself. I'm sure the Q&As are probably either excruciatingly boring or maybe they're mildly entertaining. All right, so let's move on to the White House from January the 10th. Executive action. So here's some of the executive action bullet points. President Trump signed an executive order blocking the Chinese acquisition of certain assets held by U.S. semiconductor manufacturer MCOR in order to protect American national security. President Trump also signed an executive order ensured defense contractors prioritize production capacity, innovation, and on-time delivery for America's military. President Trump signed a presidential memorandum directing the withdrawal of the United States from 66 international organizations that no longer serve American interests. That was a huge win. President Trump established a new division at the Department of Justice for national fraud enforcement. And of course, if another Democrat president gets into office down the road, those 66 organizations, they're going to be fully funded, probably with retroactive pay or whatever they call it. All the back pay that they didn't get during the years of the evil big bad orange man Cheetos administration. All right, so Karoline Leavitt, trust in Trump. We're heading into the whole mortgage and the housing crisis. So mortgage rates just fell below 6% for the first time in years. The president's latest affordability push sent 15 and 30-year mortgage rates tumbling. But experts say the long-term impact may be limited. I think it's severely limited. It's not the interest rates. I'm sorry, Trump administration, it ain't the interest rates. It's the price. All right, so let's see. Gas prices. National average falls to $2.79 per gallon for the first time in nearly 5 years. That's a win across the board. Everybody wants cheaper gas. Maybe except the electric vehicle drivers, but the majority of people who bought an EV for the first time, they have explicitly stated that their next vehicle will not be an EV because they're just worried about range anxiety and they have to wait hours for it to charge in many cases. All right, so this is from the GOP. Mortgage rates dropped to lowest level in nearly 3 years as Trump orders buying of $200 billion in mortgage bonds. And what is it, like a Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, something like that? Either Trump himself or the Trump administration is trying to get them to buy up $200 billion in mortgage bonds, and they believe that's going to drop the interest rates, I guess. So this is from Pocahontas Warren. Under Trump, Americans can't afford rent or afford to buy their own home. Democrats have real plans to lower housing costs. Well, I would love to hear it because they never seem to give us any. Trump has done nothing but make the housing crisis worse. I would argue that Trump hasn't done anything either way. Housing is just almost exactly as expensive now as it was back when Trump first got in, if not just a little bit less. I think the average home was like almost right at something like $400,000 nationwide, and now it's like $380,000, give or take. So it may have lowered just a slight bit, but that is one thing that I do agree with Pocahontas on, that Americans cannot afford, in many, if not most cases, rent or buying their own home, especially millennials, Gen Z, soon to be Gen Alpha. They're not going to be able to afford houses. Like probably 95% of them won't be able to, really. All right, so let's see. All right, looks like that's it for housing, but I just want to say they could drop the interest rates down to 0%, and that's not going to fix the underlying problem. The underlying problem is that the average house costs damn near $400,000 in America, and even if interest rates were flat zero, in my opinion, the majority of Americans still would not be able to afford a mortgage, even if they had no interest whatsoever to worry about, because $400,000, I mean, it's kind of a lot of money. But you know what? On the other hand, let me do the math real quick. because maybe it isn't that bad. So $400,000, let's say that's the house. You have no interest at all to worry about. They don't require a down payment, whatever. It's going to cost you $400,000 flat after whatever fees are factored in and everything. Like, that's the final number. So if you divide that by a 30-year mortgage, so that's$13,333 per year divided by 12. So that's $1,111 a month. That's actually not too bad. Historically, that's a little high for like the average mortgage, because in 2019 I believe the average house in America was somewhere around like $200,000, and I don't think the average mortgage was that much. I think it was like maybe $1,000. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong on that, and I'm sure I know that varies state by state. But by today's standards, with as much as people are spending on new mortgages that they take out currently, or just simple rent, just paying for rent, the average American's paying a lot more than $1,100 per month. So yeah, I guess if you had no interest rates to worry about, and if you dropped $400,000 on a house that you paid over 30 years, that would be manageable, I guess, by today's economy. All right, so anyway, moving on to U.S. Secret Service. I want to thank Deputy Director Dan Bongino for his continued service to the law enforcement community. Dan's partnership and friendship was really appreciated as he served the men and women of the FBI. Dan is a real class act. I wish him all the best returning to the private sector. Secret Service Director Sean Curran. And yep, Dan Bongino, he's stepping down as a Deputy Director for the FBI. He put in like almost about a whole year. I mean, he was in there for just about a year. But yeah, I believe his reason was that it's becoming too much of a strain on his personal life. I mean, like, dude earned like millions of dollars with his podcast, the Dan Bongino Show. So he really did not have to take that job. So, I think a lot of people were just amazed that he even took it to begin with, but he did. He took the job. I know he wasn't very happy with certain ways that the FBI was being run, even with Kash Patel trying to make it a better place. And of course, Deputy Director Dan Bongino himself, I'm sure that he did a lot to make the FBI a lot better than it was when they got in. So, at least I'm thankful for his service, because he definitely didn't have to do that. All right, so NRO. The NRO welcomes our new Principal Deputy Director, Bill Atkins, and this is the National Reconnaissance Office. He brings a wealth of knowledge in space, intelligence, and defense earned through the years of experience in government and industry. We could read his full bio right here. We'll take a look at his bio. So William B. Atkins, he was appointed Principal Deputy Director, National Reconnaissance Office, PDD-NRO, on January the 12th of 2026, just yesterday. In this role, well, technically, by the time you listen to this, it's going to be yesterday. In this role, he provides overall day-to-day management of the NRO with decision responsibility as delegated by the Director NRO. Prior to being appointed as the Principal Deputy Director, Mr. Atkins served on the professional staff of the House Appropriations Committee, Subcommittee on Defense, where he had led the subcommittee's oversight and legislative responsibility for the NRO, the U.S. Space Force, U.S. Space Command, National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, the National Security Agency, and U.S. Cyber Command. From 2006 to 2016, he worked in the private sector as a strategic advisor to aerospace and defense clients on strategy, policy, and business development in the space and defense sector. From 2000 to 2006, he served on the House Science Committee and was appointed staff director for the House Space and Aeronautics Subcommittee, where he led the subcommittee's legislative and oversight activities of NASA and other agencies involved in civilian space. So, yeah, he's pretty well credentialed. All right, so I think we can at least, agree to that. So we'll move on to Department of Agriculture, Drink Up America. Yeah, yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, was National Whole Milk Day. So yeah, Drink Up America. Trump with the milk mustache. The milk mustache is back. Drink whole milk. Does body good. And move on to U.S. National Archives. To kick off America's 250th birthday, Fox News' Isaiah Hasney. I think I'm saying that right? Aisha Hansey, I don't know, whatever. So visited the National Archives in Washington, D.C. for a special look at the historic documents that started it all.
So this year, America turns 250 years old, and to celebrate, all year, we're going to take you on a journey through historic landmarks, battlefields, sharing stories of heroism that shaped who we all are today. And what better way to kick things off than by paying a visit to our nation's
monitoring ICE protests. Of course they are.
Aisha, this is the original Declaration of Independence. This is the document that started it all.
It was a radical...
Yeah, but is it really, though? Because from what I've heard, they have multiple copies of the Declaration of Independence, and you don't really ever know if the real one's out there or not. Like, they'll tell everybody, oh, yeah, that's totally the real one. But the actual real one is, like, buried in the basement in a very dark room, climate-controlled, just trying to keep the ink preserved as long as humanly possible.
Document for its time. 56 founding fathers signing off on the official separation from the British Empire. Now, the Declaration of Independence sits...
on that show, Life After People. You remember that show? That it was on, like, Discovery Channel or something. I can't remember what. Or Science. It might have been Science Channel. It was something like 600 years from now, the ink on the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence will fade away just by the natural process of aging.
Inside the National Archives Museum, where Jim Byron, senior advisor to the archivist, is trying to preserve it for all to see.
This is actually all encased in something called argon gas, which the latest in science shows will actually keep it preserved and should keep it preserved in perpetuity.
History has faded some of the words and signatures, but
looks like at some point
a few surprises.
We might have to.
Jim, am I crazy, or is that a handprint?
Might have to eventually go over it.
You're not crazy. That is a handprint.
Where'd that come from?
We don't know. We don't know. Again,
very interesting. I wonder whose handprint that is. You know, you send in the FBI, do some fingerprint analysis. Of course, they're not gonna have their fingerprint to compare it to. But yeah, like they touch up artwork all the time. I mean, at least they did in Ghostbusters 2. So I don't know why they wouldn't. Well, I know why they wouldn't want to touch up the ink. I get it.
This document hung in many different locations. It was in
getting kind of hard to read.
It was in sunlight. It was above a fireplace in the White House. Along the way, someone put their handprint on the world's most famous document. So really, in many ways, that's the most famous handprint in American history.
And I just want to make sure you've checked, you've turned it over. There's no treasure map, right?
As far as we know, there's no treasure map, but maybe in the next encasement of argon gas,
freaking Hollywood.
Something might turn up. No, there's no treasure map on the back.
Nearby sit the original Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Collectively, all three are known as the Charters of Freedom. And for some visitors, seeing these words up close is emotional.
And this is the paper record of how our society functions. Like this is a documentation of what our country is supposed to be.
The archives is home to more than 13 billion documents that trace our nation's history. And we got to go inside one of its 3 vaults, which holds everything from the Treaty of Paris to the original U.S. Census. And yes, that is the Paul Revere from Boston.
Good grief, man.
Aisha, this is the first
electricity
appropriations bill ever passed in the United States Congress, September of 1789. And
seems a little short.
It's a little short.
Nowadays are a lot longer.
It's one page, one paragraph on one page.
Yeah, it's kind of nice.
If you had to guess, what do you think
the
total
most of our laws
was in the United States budget?
I don't
Simple
even
and to the point.
$639,000.
That's it.
Wow.
That's it.
That was our federal budget.
Go.
That's what funded the United States government. And most of that actually was to cover war debts from the American Revolution.
While the National Archives is all about preserving our history, it's also launching headfirst into the future, unveiling an artificial intelligence-driven exhibit called The American Story. Visitors can view George Washington's notes on his personal draft of the Constitution and interact with other records. It's like opening up a time capsule. Each item tells a story and reminds us what it means to be
put it on
American.
the internet. Let us all
think
see
about what our founders went through and the thought that they put into crafting a new nation, the blood, the sweat, the tears that they expended to build something that we now enjoy. I think it's very important to keep that spirit alive for another 250 years.
Well, hopefully for another 2,500 years. Hopefully forever. All right, Secretary Kennedy. President Trump and I are doing everything we can to pull back the curtain on prices for hospital stays, physician visits, and prescription drugs. We're delivering on those promises, working to make your health care more transparent, more accessible, and more convenient with no surprises. Let's hope so.
Hi, I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., your HHS secretary.
There we go.
When you go out to eat at a restaurant, the price of food is right there on the menu. When you purchase something online, you know exactly how much you're going to be charged before you click buy. Why is it that when it comes to many medical procedures, we only find out the price afterward? And unlike a restaurant or an online purchase, medical bills often run into hundreds of thousands of dollars. Who benefits from that? Certainly not the patients. While you've been at home worrying about that bill coming in the mail, Health insurers and hospitals have been hiking up prices and pocketing skyrocketing profits. Patients are fed up with the status quo, and that's why President Trump took action in his first term to pull back the curtain on prices for hospital stays, physicians' visits, and prescription drugs. Now we're building on that. Thanks to the leadership of Dr. Oz and his incredible team at CMS, the Trump administration recently published Transparency and Coverage 2.0 proposed rule that requires health insurers to show patients the actual cost of care upfront. When you can see the cost of care before you receive it, you can shop for the lowest cost, highest quality treatments, which will drive down the cost of care by promoting market competition in the process. Right after the Senate confirmed me as your HHS secretary, President Trump signed an executive order that directs us to make healthcare pricing clear, accurate, transparent, and actionable. And the MAHA strategy, released in September, calls for HHS to implement that executive order. Today, we're delivering on those directives, working to make your healthcare more transparent, more accessible, more convenient, with no surprises. Our proposed rule requires the information be available to you in multiple ways, including on your cell phone. Other nations have found that when governments require price transparency, patients make informed choices that are better for them, better for society.
Yeah, kind of nice.
Bringing down national healthcare costs dramatically. Analysts estimate that price transparency could save American
the patients
consumers
will push back.
$80 billion annually in healthcare costs. President Trump and I are doing everything we can to make sure healthcare is more affordable, and that starts by empowering you with options and information right down to the last dollar. Thank you.
Well, it'd also be kind of nice to find out how much do these medical facilities, how much do they have to pay for the services that they're rendering to the patients? Like a simple x-ray or an MRI. I mean, how much does it cost a radiology center to give an MRI? Would it cost them, I don't know, $300, $350, but yet they're charging the patients or the insurance companies like $8,000, $9,000. I don't even know what it's up to now. It's probably even more than that. All right, so good news, definitely good news. If it works out the way that he's intending on it to work out, let's certainly hope so. And I got one more from Secretary Kennedy. This administration is making sure that every American family has access to real whole food at prices they can afford. Again, let's hope so. But we all know that healthy food is typically quite a bit more expensive than the junk food.
Brooke Rollins is requiring that any facility, any store that accepts food stamps will have to double the amount of whole food that is now available to recipients. So that will change the marketplace around the world, around the country. We're going to make sure that every American family, that affordable whole food is available to them at prices that they can afford. Brooke,
yeah, I mean, if they've got a supply that's double what they currently have, then sure, it should cost less. I mean, as long as we have the supply. If they have an oversupply, that's usually what happens. Supply and demand, the costs will go down. All right, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent at today's Finance Ministerial hosted by the U.S. Treasury. I was pleased to hear a strong shared desire to quickly address key vulnerabilities in critical mineral supply chains. I'm optimistic that nations will pursue prudent de-risking over decoupling and understand well the need for decisive action. Yep, that's another thing that we're working on, trying to mine these critical minerals right here in America. That would certainly be better than going through China, because I believe China, when it comes to the refining process of critical minerals, globally, they have a 90% majority refining process, they refine like 90% of the world's supply of critical minerals. So yeah, it would certainly be nice if we got that back under control, or back on our side, here at stateside, so we don't have to go through freaking China. And looks like that's happening with our pharmaceuticals, because we learned during the COVID era that an insane amount of pharmaceuticals are manufactured in China now. And I think most people were not even aware of that. But yep, that's what COVID taught me, at least. All right, so out of Washington today, Secretary of the Treasury Scott H. Bessent convened a meeting of finance ministers at the United States Treasury to discuss solutions to secure and diversify supply chains for critical minerals, especially rare earth elements. Participants in the ministerial included Treasurer of Australia, Jim Chalmers, Minister of Finance of Canada, Francois-Philippe Champagne, and European Commissioner for Economy and Productivity, Implementation and Simplification, Valdis Dombrovskis, Minister of the Economy, Finance and Energy of France, Roland Lescure, Vice Chancellor and Federal Minister of Finance of Germany, Lars Klingbeil, Union Minister for Railway, Information and Broadcasting, Electronics and Information Technology of India, Ashwini Vaishnaw, Minister of Economy and Finance of Italy, Giancarlo Giorgetti, Minister of Finance of Japan, Satsuki Katayama, Secretary of Finance and Public Credit of Mexico, Edgar Amador Zamora, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Economy and Finance of the Republic of Korea, Yoon Cheol-koo, and Chancellor of the Exchequer of the United Kingdom. Why can't I pronounce that? He's from the United Kingdom. I should be able to pronounce that. Exchequer of the United Kingdom, Rachel Reeves, U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer, President and Chairman of the Export-Import Bank of the United States, John Jovanovic, and J.P. Morgan Managing Director Jay Horan also presented on key area of focus. Throughout the course of discussions, attendees expressed a strong shared desire to quickly address key vulnerabilities in critical mineral supply chains. The United States highlighted actions and investments it has already undertaken, as well as planned steps to create resilient, secure, and diversified critical mineral supply chains. Secretary Bessent expressed his optimism that nations will pursue prudent de-risking over decoupling, and that they understand well the need to remedy current deficiencies in critical minerals supply chains, noting that these supply chains have also become highly concentrated and vulnerable to disruption and manipulation. The Secretary urged attendees to increase their supply chain resiliency and thanked attendees for their willingness to both learn from and work quickly with each other toward decisive action and lasting solutions. Well, China announced by the end of November of last year, they were going to start bottlenecking. Well, they were gonna start doing a controlled release of rare earth minerals to the world, not just the United States, but they were going to set up controls over the volume of critical minerals to be released out of China that are already refined, which obviously would create a massive problem for not only the West but for the entire world. Because if China, if they're not only have they cornered the market, but they're only going to release a little bit of their supply at a time, it's going to cause everything to skyrocket, especially with electronics and what have you. So, but it was either through President Trump himself or representatives in the Trump administration. They negotiated with China to get China to push back that date a full year, and they agreed to do so. So arguably, by November of this year, 2026, China is going to start implementing that new policy where they're only going to release a set amount of rare earth minerals in its raw form to world manufacturers. And if we don't have a new area or a new place to get all these rare earth minerals from, well, that's going to be a problem. That means that pretty much everything, electronics, motor vehicles, just about everything, I would think, it's going to start costing a hell of a lot more. So yeah, so they're definitely, this is definitely important, this meeting that's taking place. I don't know about what did they say, JP Morgan? I don't know why freaking bankers are there. That's kind of weird. All right, so defense news. Wait, is this F-22 Raptor demonstration footage kind of soothing? I bet it is. I love the F-22 Raptor. F-22 Raptor is freaking badass. All right, let's give this a watch. The music makes it, I think, more soothing than anything. That's a cool camera. Very low. Yeah, it'd literally be a blast to be a pilot of an F-22. He's so badass. But he has no problem getting the ladies. I'm an F-22 pilot. It's the Raptor. I'm sure they can probably pilot a number of different fighter jets. But yeah, from what I've heard, they're talking about warehousing a lot of F-22 Raptors because there's really no use for them in combat these days because they're simply too damn advanced. They made them like way too advanced. Like they're probably, they'd be more well suited for enemy fighter jets that are going to be built in, I don't know, like the year 2100 or some crazy shit. All right, from the U.S. Air Force, how do you train pilots for 5th-gen fighters? It starts with a revolutionary leap forward. The T-7A Red Hawk is here, bringing the digital systems and advanced training needed for a new era of air power. See the new standard at, looks like dvidsHub.net. I'm not familiar with that, although that might link to a government site. Yeah, it is, aetc.af.mil with Air Education and Training Command. And is that a video? No, that's not a video. It's just an image. All right. So, okay, where did it go? Here it is. So, AETC holds T-7A Red Hawk official arrival ceremony, marking new era in pilot training. And this was published on January the 9th at Joint Base San Antonio, Randolph, Texas. Air Education and Training Command hosted an arrival ceremony January 9th for the T-7A Red Hawk, the U.S. Air Force's next-generation trainer aircraft, marking a significant milestone in the service's effort to modernize pilot training. The ceremony marks the delivery from the Boeing Company to Air Education and Training Command. The 99th Flying Training Squadron, assigned to the 12th Flying Training Wing, is the first Air Force unit to receive the T-7A. Senior Air Force leaders and industry partners attended and spoke at the event, including Lieutenant General Scott Plius, Acting Vice Chief of Staff of the U.S. Air Force, Lieutenant General Clark J. Quinn, Commander of the Air Education and Training Command, and Daniel Gillian, Vice President and General Manager of Boeing Air Defense. And, of course, they get into some more detail about that. Probably a little too boring for most, but I will have that linked if you want to check that out. And from Secretary Kristi Noem, the men and women of the U.S. Coast Guard are the best of the best in the world at what they do. On January 9th in Puerto Rico, the U.S. Coast Guard found a 68-year-old man alive after being stranded for more than a day and executed a heroic and flawless operation to rescue him by helicopter despite rough seas, rocky surroundings, and low visibility in the dead of night. The men and women of the U.S. Coast Guard are diligent and dedicated, and America is blessed to have them keeping watch. We'll take a look at this. It may not have any sound. It looks like another one of those, drone doohickeys. Or it might actually be on the helicopter, though, really. But yeah, they usually don't have sound. I mean, not that it would do much good. Just be constant. So yeah, clearly the 68-year-old man. All right, so they got him in the basket, lifting him up, using the infrared camera in the dead of night. It said rough seas. Not sure exactly. I don't know if there might be like some tiny island that he found himself stranded on. Oh, yeah. There's the ocean. Holy shit. That is some rough seas. Yikes, man. Yeah, that's not terrifying at all. In the pitch darkness, being lifted up into the sky with this like roaring helicopter right above you. Windy, angry seas crashing right beneath you. All right, so that was it. Yeah, man, that was great. Heroic. U.S. Coast Guard, always doing what they do best. Rescuing. And this is from Homeland Security, safeguarding American airspace. DHS has launched a program executive office to rapidly procure and deploy drone and counter-drone technology. It is our duty to provide our frontline personnel with every tool they need to protect our nation and return home to their families every day. As we approach the FIFA World Cup and America 250 celebrations, we will ensure our skies are safe and secure. Ooh, it's a little loud. Oh, wow. It just busted that window, didn't it? And them drones, man, those drones are getting crazy advanced. All right, let's moving along. Drones. I don't know if you ever seen FPS Russia. That was a YouTube channel from way back in the day, like late 2000s, early 2010s. Like, dude, he had a drone. This must have been like in 2011 or 2012. He had a drone with a machine gun attached to it, and it was fully operational. Like, he shot it at a target. It was absolutely crazy. I know his YouTube channel's still there, but he got himself into some trouble, and long story short, he can't do his YouTube channel anymore. All right, so this is from Agricultural Research Service. ARS scientists have made a sweet discovery after finding the Donaldson orange tree. The Donaldson is showing some tolerance to one of the presumed casual agents of citrus greening disease. Learn more about the Donaldson tree at the following link, which I won't get into the details with that. That's going to be boring for just about everybody. I mean, it somewhat affects me directly. I'm no citrus farmer or anything, but I do live in Florida, and citrus greening really broke out in 2005, and it wiped out our citrus industry. It's probably why it's probably pretty rare that anywhere in the country you'll find oranges that have a Florida sticker on them. But back in the day, just about all of our oranges, it seemed, came out of Florida, but not so much anymore. It's like 70% of our citrus, has caused about 90% of citrus production losses since first detected in 2005. So yeah, citrus greening wiped out about 90% of the entire Florida citrus industry. Absolutely crazy. It is. It sucks. I don't know why they didn't put an orange here. That's a peach. It's not an orange. That's a peach. Yeah, they've got orange emojis. I use the orange emoji. Actually, it might even be in my bio, actually. At least it used to be. All right, so Secretary Brooke Rollins. Up next, strawberry season in California. We visited former California AG Secretary A.G. Kawamura's strawberry farm in Irvine, right in the middle of a city and heart of peak harvest. California leads the nation in strawberry production, and it was amazing to highlight the specialty crop growers who help feed our country and keep American agriculture strong. With the release of the new dietary guidelines this week, farms like this matter even more. Fresh, real foods like strawberries are exactly what we're encouraging families to put on their tables. From the field to the plate, this is what Make America Healthy Again looks like. And got a few photos out there at the strawberry farm. That's a large strawberry farm. Good grief. And I live in the Tampa Bay area, in St. Pete specifically, and our strawberry season is upon us. Yeah, here we go. And don't forget, Florida strawberry season's upon us. And Plant City, that's where all the strawberries that I know of, they come out of. They come out of Plant City, Florida, which is like, actually, I just drove through Plant City on my way up to the Ocala National Forest over the weekend. So yeah, man, strawberries. It's a good time of year. Our strawberry festival in Plant City, I believe it's the largest strawberry festival in the world, happens in next month in February. All right, DOE Office of Science, the dark side of the moon, the area that isn't visible from Earth, provides a uniquely quiet place to tune into radio waves from the early universe. Lucy Knight, built at Brookhaven Lab, is a moon-based telescope created to study those waves. That's really cool, man. They're going to put a telescope on the moon. That's good thinking. I don't know why they didn't do that a long time ago. I don't know, man. It kind of makes you wonder. Even though the dark side of the moon is not always dark. It's not always the dark side of the moon because, you know, we go through the phases of the moon. So whenever we have a new moon, I think everybody by now knows what the new moon is. It's when the moon's out, but you can't see it because, you know, the sun is shining on the opposite side of the moon. It's shining on the dark side of the moon, not on our side of the moon. So anyway, but scientists and engineers, they craft a radio telescope bound for the moon, which is pretty cool. So they're going to use that to detect radio signals, which it's a pretty good idea. I think it's a good idea. So that way it's not going to be obstructed by all the radio waves and signals that we're just blasting out of our planet on a daily basis. I mean, I couldn't even imagine. Could you imagine if you put on some filter or some special glasses that would allow you to see radio waves? I mean, you wouldn't see anything. I mean, we're constantly surrounded by all kinds of waves, man-made waves. All right, so how do you build a moon rocket from NASA? Explain it to me in Lego. As we prepare to roll the Artemis II rocket and spacecraft to the launch pad, we will host a Q&A session and Lego Technic build with our experts about our upcoming moon mission on Twitch on January 15th at 1 p.m. And looks like it's just a GIF that they've got here. Just showing pretty much like, how does this connect? Oh, it connects like that. I guess they're going to use Legos, I presume, to illustrate that on Twitch. But anyway, that's all I have for this episode. And if you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It'll mean a lot to me if you subscribe. And I'll be dropping a new show tomorrow evening and every evening, Monday through Friday, covering the swamp and everyone living in it, the politicians, the bureaucrats, the agencies, and also I post daily on X, so feel free to comment over there too if you'd like. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your night, and God bless America.